I think it's really interesting and very unusual take that they have, and it's good to see you and welcome.
Why, thank you very much.
And in the audience, welcome very, very much. We have as a guest one of MNN's own, one of the top stars of MNN, that being Barbara Rosenfeld. She does a good deal of programming here, and she's here as a guest. She's been a guest of mine in the past and with other people here at MNN, and she's brought in a clip, rather long one, from a thing called Zeitgeist, the addendum, I guess it is.
Right. This is called the Venus Project, and it's quite an intro. It runs about 21 minutes and 37
yeah,
seconds.
We're going to run that in the program, and I hope we can get it all in and everything, because it's a major look at the human condition from a very comprehensive perspective, which I know I find very interesting. I think other people will. It's been out for some time, but it's a major movement. But welcome, Barbara. So good to see you again, always, right?
It's good
Looking
to see
lovely
you too.
as always.
Thank you.
Share a little bit of your background just as a wade into this, and then we'll get talking about the film, show a clip, and so forth. But share your own background a little bit.
Well, I'm one of the pioneers of the anti-war movement.
Right.
And
Vietnam War.
Vietnam War, right? Which war?
Yeah.
It's not the Civil War. Anyway.
No, I know, yeah.
But the Vietnam War, and I was part of the Vietnam Peace Parade Committee. Excuse me.
Thank you for all that good work.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, I remember it well. And if I'm not mistaken, you used to do some doo-wop?
Oh, when I was a kid, yes.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I hung out on the street corners and sang doo-wop with my little girlfriends, and we used to have a great time. And I used to sing the bass.
Mm-hmm. You bass, right? Okay.
I would sing bass.
Boom, wah, ooh, wah, ooh, wah. Okay, yeah.
Okay, and you know, I had a good time with that. But then I
Yeah.
started singing in Washington Square Park, and I was singing with your friend, David Peel.
Oh, David, yeah, great guy.
And
yeah, he's
playing in this jug band that he had.
Okay.
And I was playing the jug and the washboard and everything. I was having a great time.
Yes, right. That was a great time. I mean, there was so much going on. The Vietnam War and that whole period, there was just something blowing in the wind. Bobby Dylan said there was something really major going on back around 1968, 70.
That's right.
There. Yeah.
There was a lot going on. Actually, I marched with not only Martin Luther King,
okay,
but I marched with Norman Thomas and James Farmer and all of those people. It actually was the first demonstration against the war in Vietnam, and we marched from 103rd Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. We marched down to West 3rd Street.
Wow, that's a long march. Yeah.
It was 3 degrees below zero, and I was frozen.
I'll bet,
I was absolutely frozen.
Yeah.
And we made our point, and we gradually gathered some momentum there, you know?
Yeah.
And then there was a huge movement against the war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I've always been concerned about the condition of war and why we go to war.
Right. And it's been there with such regularity, isn't it?
Oh, yes. You said something the last time we had an interview, that history is a nightmare from which we are yet to awaken.
Well, that's very close. Actually, the quote is not mine.
It's James Joyce.
It is the great James Joyce. History, had Dedalus say, history is a nightmare from which I'm attempting to awaken.
Okay.
Which is true. History has not been very well structured to serve the interests of the vast majority of the people of the planet. It serves leadership elements that emerge through historic patterns. They live in very good conditions, take care of their own, and then the mass of the people are not well served. This film and this Mr. What's his name again?
His name is Jacques Fresco, and he's a futurist.
Yes.
And he's a social engineer, and he has a good take on why we've had history. Our entire history has to do with conquest and acquisition, and basically it's an economic structure that has outlived its purpose, and he has a solution for it. He's probably one of many people, but evidently this movement is gaining some momentum.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
and I think it's worth it to take a look at.
Yeah, he is, and he's also, if I'm not mistaken, he nests with, as they say, Bucky Fuller, who's a hero of mine.
Right, that's right.
Also another anticipatory design science person who's taking the measure of technology and its developments. And it's worth mentioning here because you've been interested for a very long time in computers and things cyber, and that's a huge development of the extended capability of human intelligence or human consciousness through technology that is altering the context within which all human affairs take place in monumental new ways. I think that's one of the themes of this film that we're going to look at, and it certainly was one of the themes that motivated Buckminster Fuller, Marshall McLuhan, and a good deal of the spirit of that 1968-70 blowing in the wind, something blowing in the wind, that a new possibility was emerging through largely the technological development, which is the main thing that has changed. I don't think we're biologically very different from Cro-Magnon cave people.
Well, we are biologically, but as far as our progress has been, we're a relatively new species.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So we haven't gotten past this primitive stage, and I think we're learning that the paradigm shift has to take place.
A paradigm of, I would say, a paradigm of paradigm shifts, perhaps. I mean, that's my sensing of it, and it seems to me the film takes that. It takes a very large perspective, not a little change here and a little change there, but a major shift in terms of what the environment or the zeitgeist, it's called zeitgeist, permits, which has not been able to be permitting it historically. And it might be the stuff of the alarm clock that could wake us from the nightmare of injustice, which has largely prevailed for the vast majority of human beings and much of the ecology at the hands of people living in one condition that's been qualitatively transformed now as we speak in our lifetime. And we need to have something relative to the future rather than reify or reestablish all of the old institutions out of a period who needs to be subsumed within the future pattern, and that's a major challenge confronting mankind, and it questions the validity of virtually all the institutions we developed in that period that's being subsumed or qualitatively transformed. I think that's one of the major themes.
Okay, well, let me give you a little background on this Jacques Fresco, because the reason it's called the Venus Project is because he's in a place called Venus, Florida.
Okay, right.
All right, this has nothing to do with anything from outer space. Although it could be, but, you know, maybe inspired by. But he's in Florida, in Venus, Florida, and the activist arm of this movement is called the Zeitgeist Movement. And what we're going to be showing at the ACAP meeting is the Zeitgeist Addendum movie, which is a 2-hour movie, which I just loved. I don't know if you got to watch the whole thing.
You've been pressing for that, and could I say, just in a addendum kind of way, ACAP, that stands for the Association of Cable Access Producers.
Right.
And they have an annual meeting, a monthly meeting, and we're going to have one on the 26th of October.
Okay.
And we're going to have as the subject matter this film and this movement, and give it serious consideration, its implications to the broader human condition and to the communications efforts of not only all of television and multimedia, but also cable and cyber and so forth. So it's relevant.
Yes, well, I think it's an extremely relevant topic, and I wanted to share part of it with your viewers. So why don't we start showing this, and then we could go over it, and if there are any points that you want to ask questions about or discuss, then maybe we can discuss that.
Well, then perhaps we could. We could set it up And we'll set that up and air it now. And we should say this is a little longer than most clips. This
That's
is not
right.
a sound bite. This is about 21 minutes.
Right. Actually, it's 21 minutes and 37 seconds.
21 minutes and 37 seconds, not 36 seconds, 37.
Because
yeah.
actually, I burned this DVD. This came from a flash file that they make available on the internet, and I converted it in order to burn it to disc.
I see.
And the video quality is not that great, but the audio is pretty good. It's called The Venus Project, and this is a short. So why don't we show that, and then we can.
Okay, let's set that up in the studio now and run it. Then we're talking with Barbara Rosenfeld, who's a major force in getting this thing to our attention here and to spread it around among the people of the country. It could be a really major movement that's taking place that could bring about a qualitative change that a lot of people feel is necessary and so forth. So we're running that tape now. Then please, if you could set it up.
My name's Jock Fresco. I'm an industrial designer and a social engineer. I'm very much interested in society and developing a system that might be sustainable for all people. The society that we're about to talk about is a society that is free of all the old superstitions, incarceration, prisons, police, cruelty, and law. All laws will disappear, and the professions will disappear that are no longer valid, such as stockbrokers, bankers, advertising, gone forever, because it's no longer relevant. First of all, the word corruption is a monetary invention. That aberrant behavior that's disruptive to the well-being of people, while you're dealing with human behavior. And human behavior appears to be environmentally determined, meaning if you were raised by the Seminole Indians as a baby, never saw anything else, you'd hold that value system. And this goes for nations, it goes for individuals, for families. They try to indoctrinate their children to their particular faith and their country and make them feel like they're part of that. And they build a society which they call established. They establish a workable point of view and tend to perpetuate that, whereas all societies are really emergent, not established. And so they fight new ideas that would interfere with the establishment. Governments try to perpetuate that which keeps them in power. People are not elected to political office to change things. They're put there to keep things the way they are. So you see, the basis of corruption is in our society. Let me make it clear. All nations, then, are basically corrupt because they tend to uphold existing institutions. I don't mean to uphold or downgrade all nations, but communism, socialism, fascism, the free enterprise system, and all other subcultures are the same. They are all basically corrupt.
At the heart of this institutional self-preservation lies the monetary system, for it is money that provides the means for power and survival. Therefore, just as a poor person might be forced to steal in order to survive, it is a natural inclination to do whatever is needed to continue an institution's profitability. This makes it inherently difficult for profit-based institutions to change, for it puts in jeopardy not only the survival of large groups of people, but also the coveted materialistic lifestyles associated with affluence and power. Therefore, the paralyzing necessity to preserve an institution, regardless of its social relevance, is largely rooted in the need for money or profit.
What's in it for me is why people think. And so if a man makes money selling a certain product, naturally he's going to fight the existence of another product that may threaten his institution. Therefore, people cannot be fair, and people do not trust each other. A guy will come over to you and say, I got just the house you're looking for. He's a salesman. When a doctor says, I think your kidney has to come out, I don't know if he's trying to pay off a yacht or whether my kidney has to come out. It's hard in a monetary system to trust people. If you came into my store and I said, this lamp that I've got is pretty good, but the lamp next door is much better, I wouldn't be in business very long. It wouldn't work. If I were ethical, it wouldn't work. So when you say industry cares for people, that's not true. They can't afford to be ethical. So your system is not designed to serve the well-being of people. If you still don't understand that, there would be no outsourcing of jobs if they cared about people. Industry does not care. They only hire people because it hasn't been automated yet. So don't talk about decency and ethics. We cannot afford it and remain in business. So you see, you have built-in corruption. We're all chiseling off each other, and you can't expect decency and that sort of thing. And feeling that, they don't know who to elect. They think in terms of a democracy, which is not possible in a monetary-based economy. If you have more money to advertise your position, the position you desire in government, that isn't a democracy. It serves those in positions of differential advantage. So it's always a dictatorship of the elitists, the financially wealthy. It's not politicians that can solve problems. They have no technical capabilities. They don't know how to solve problems. Even if they were sincere, they don't know how to solve problems. It's the technicians that produce the desalination plants. It's the technicians that give you electricity, that give you motor vehicles, that heat your house and cool it in the summertime. It's technology that solves problems, not politics. Politics cannot solve problems because they're not trained to do so. And writing your congressman is fantastic. They tell you to write your congressman if you want something done. The men in Washington should be at the forefront of technology, the forefront of human studies, the forefront of crime, all the factors that shape human behavior. You don't have to write your congressman. What kind of people are they that are appointed to do that job? The future will have great difficulty. And the question that's raised by politicians is, how much will a project cost? The question is not how much will it cost. Do we have the resources? And we have the resources today to house everyone, build hospitals all over the world, build schools all over the world, the finest equipment and labs for teaching and doing medical research. So you see, we have all that, but we're in a monetary system. And in a monetary system, there's profit.
The true gift that we as human beings have, which has been solely responsible for everything that has improved our lives, is technology. What is technology? Technology is a pencil which allows one to solidify ideas on paper for communication. Technology is an automobile which allows one to travel faster than feet would allow. Technology is a pair of eyeglasses which enables sight for those who need it. Applied technology itself is merely an extension of human attributes which reduces human effort, freeing humans from a particular chore or problem. Imagine what your life would be like today without a telephone, or an oven, or a computer, or an airplane. Everything in your home, which you take for granted, from a doorbell to a table to a dishwasher, is technology generated from the creative, scientific ingenuity of human technicians, not money.
People use the word instinct because they can't account for the behavior. They sit back and they evaluate with their lack of knowledge, and they say things like, humans are built a certain way, greed is a natural thing, as though they've worked for years on it, and it's no more natural than wearing clothing.
What we want to do is to eliminate the causes of the problems, eliminate the processes that produce greed and bigotry and prejudice and people taking advantage of one another and elitism, eliminating the need for prisons and welfare. We have always had these problems because we have always lived within scarcity and barter and monetary systems that produce scarcity.
If you eradicate the conditions that generate what you call socially offensive behavior, it does not exist. The guy said, well, isn't that inborn? No, it's not.
There is no human nature. There's human behavior, and that's always been changed throughout history. You're not born with bigotry and greed and corruption and hatred. You pick that up within the society.
War, poverty, corruption, hunger, misery, human suffering will not change in a monetary system. That is, there'll be very little significant change. It's going to take the redesign of our culture, our values, and it has to be related to the carrying capacity of the earth, not some human opinion or some politician's notions of the way the world ought to be, or some religious notions of the conduct of human affairs. And that's what the Venus Project is about. The society that we're about to talk about is a society that is free of all the old superstitions, incarceration, prisons, police, cruelty, and law. All laws will disappear, and the professions will disappear that are no longer valid, such as stockbrokers, bankers, advertising, gone forever, because it's no longer relevant. What the Venus Project proposes is an entirely different system that's updated to present-day knowledge.
We've never given scientists the problem of how do you design a society which would eliminate boring and monotonous jobs, that would eliminate accidents in transportation, that would enable people to have a high standard of living, that would eliminate poisons in our food, that would give us other sources of energy that are clean and efficient. We can do that out there. The major difference between a resource-based economy and a monetary system is that a resource-based economy is really concerned with people and their well-being, where a monetary system has become so distorted that the concerns of the people are really secondary, if they're there at all. The products that are turned out are for how much money you can get. If there is a problem in society and you can't earn money from solving that problem, then it won't be done. The resource-based economy is really not close to anything that's been tried. And with all our technology today, we can create abundance. It could be used to improve everyone's lifestyle. Abundance all over the world if we use our technology wisely and maintain the environment.
It's a very different system, and it's very hard to talk about because the public is not that well enough informed as to the state of technology. At present, we don't have to burn fossil fuels. We don't have to use anything that would contaminate the environment. There are many sources of energy available.
Alternative energy solutions pushed by the establishment, such as hydrogen, biomass, and even nuclear, are highly insufficient, dangerous, and exist only to perpetuate the profit structure that industry has created.
Now, America is inclined toward fascism. It has a propensity by its dominant philosophy and religion to uphold the fascist point of view. American industry is essentially a fascist institution. If you don't understand that, the minute you punch that time clock, you walk into a dictatorship.
We're given notions about the respectability of work, and I really look at it as being paid slavery.
They're brought up to believe that You shall earn your living by the sweat of your brow. That holds people back, freeing people from drudgery, repetitive jobs which make them ignorant. You rob them. In our society, that is a resource-based economy, machines free people. You see, we can't imagine that because we've never known that kind of world.
If we look back at history, we see a very clear pattern of machine automation slowly replacing human labor. From the disappearance of the elevator man to the near full automation of an automobile production plant, the fact is, as technology grows, the need for humans in the workforce will continually be diminished. This creates a serious clash, which proves the falseness of the monetary-based labor system. For human employment is in direct competition with technological development. Therefore, given the fundamental priority of profit by industry, people through time will be continually laid off and replaced by machine.
When industry takes on a machine, instead of shortening the workday, they downsize. You lose your job. So you have a right to fear machines.
In a high-technology, resource-based economy, it is conservative to say that about 90% of all current occupations could be phased out by machines, freeing humans to live their life without servitude, for this is the point of technology itself.
We have machines that clean out sewers. It frees a human being from doing that. So look at machines as extensions of human performance.
Furthermore, many occupations today will have simply no basis to exist in a resource-based economy, such as anything associated with the management of money, advertising, along with the legal system itself. For without money, a great majority of the crimes that are committed today would never occur. Virtually all forms of crime are a consequence of the monetary system, either directly or by neuroses inflicted through financial deprivation. Therefore, laws themselves could eventually become extinct.
Instead of putting up a sign, drive carefully, slippery when wet, put abrasive in the highway so it's not slippery when wet. And if a person gets in a car they're drunk and the car oscillates a great deal, there's a little pendulum that swings up and back, and that'll pull the car over to the side. Not a law solution. Put sonar and radar in automobiles so they can't hit one another. Man-made laws are attempts to deal with occurring problems, and not knowing how to solve them, they make a law. If people have access to the necessities of life without servitude, debt, barter, trade, they behave very differently. You want all these things available without a price tag. Now then, you gotta have a price tag. Well, what'll motivate people? Man gets everything he wants, he just lay around in the sun. This is the myth they perpetuate. People in our culture are trained to believe that the monetary system produces incentive. If they have access to things, why should they want to do anything? They will lose their incentive. That's what you're taught to support the monetary system. When you take money out of the scenario, there would be different incentives, very different incentives. When people have access to the necessities of life, their incentives change. What about the moon and the stars? New incentives arise. If you make a painting that you enjoy, you will enjoy giving it to other people, not selling it. I think most of the education that I've seen today is essentially producing a person for a job. It's very specialized. They're not generalists. People don't know a lot about a lot of different subjects. I don't think you could get people to go to war if they knew a lot about a lot of things. I think education is mostly rote, and they're not taught how to solve problems. They're not given the tools, emotionally or within their own field, of how to do critical thinking. A resource-based economy, the education would be very different. Our society's major concern as mental development, and to motivate each person to their highest potential. Because our philosophy is the smarter people are, the richer the world, because everybody becomes a contributor.
The smarter your kids are, the better my life will be, because they'll be contributing more constructively to the environment and to my life, because everything that we devise within a resource-based economy would be applied to society. There would be nothing to hold it back.
Patriotism, weapons, armies, navies, all that is a sign that we're not civilized yet. Kids will ask their parents, didn't you see the necessity of the machines? Dad, couldn't you see that war was inevitable when you produce scarcity? Isn't it obvious? Of course the kid will understand that you were pinheads, raised merely to serve the established institutions. We're such an abominable, sick society that we won't make the history book. They just say that large nations took land from smaller nations, used force and violence. You'll get history talked about as corrupt behavior all the way along until the beginning of the civilized world. That's when all the nations work together. World unification, working toward common good for all human beings, and without anyone being subservient to anyone else, without social stratification, whether it be technical elitism or any other kind of elitism, eradicated from the face of the earth. The state does nothing because there is no state. Because there is no state. The system I advocate, a resource-based global economy, is not perfect. It's just a lot better than what we have. We can never achieve perfection.
Okay, well, that's really good. That's really good. Thank you for bringing that in. That's a little taste of this thing, the Venus Project. Huge implications to what he's saying, and it's a sweep out of human history. It's a view of things that seems very apropos. We've just come off a economic problem that's confronted capitalism. We have these things that go up and down. Right. The Dow hit 10,000 yesterday. A lot of people are saying that as Mr. Roosevelt saved capitalism, so Obama saved it when it went kapooey on September 20, 2008 and so forth. But one of the things that I see as I look at a lot of the economics pundits and so forth, the political economic pundits, is they're saying that we are being confronted with because the unemployment rate is officially now nearly 10% across the board, very high compared to what they assume is appropriate and so forth. But they say that they're scratching their heads, a great number of people are, and mostly repairing to the traditional way in which we have recovered from long periods of depression or recession even. And they're saying increasingly in many, many circles they're looking and they're saying we have a jobless recovery, that the economic production is there, but the job opportunities are supposed to follow, but they're not.
No, and I think they're stepping down.
They're confused by that.
Right.
And that's a problem because the only way for the vast majority of the population of the American society or any other political entity and the international system for an individual to gain income in order to buy what the economy is able to produce, that would be to have the demand the capability to buy penicillin to save your child's life. You have to have the money to buy it, and to distribute money is all done through labor criteria. They call it a job.
Right.
Lord Keynes in 1930, he's a major economist, and predicted that there was going to be, in fact it was in 1930, a letter to our grandchildren, it was titled, and he was looking to the grandchildren in their maturity, which would be just about now. And he said, you're going to be confronted with something that is very hard to imagine, technologically induced massive unemployment.
That's right.
And it would seem to be that's something that we are being confronted with, and we do not have an alternative way of distributing income or buying power to the masses of the world, much less even the middle classes of the world, in order to clear the market.
Well,
we have a contradiction coming out of this recovery that is yet to be manifest in large politically relevant terms, it seems to me.
Okay, well, right now, I just wanted to say something. That the 10% unemployment has to do with the United States. It's not 10% worldwide.
Right.
But what we've been doing is not just being replaced by technology, but outsourcing. And so we've been outsourcing certain areas of the labor market to other countries.
Yeah.
But
I think Keynes was taking that into account, a worldview.
Right.
Because it's happening in Malaysia, it's happening elsewhere. The means of production is shifting from a labor-based thing that was prevalent when you were a family farmer, or that sort of thing, to technology, as they indicate. Vastly productive and doesn't need individual input.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
And it's coming now, and it's being held back because they're going to create jobs, get a minimum wage, you get a little something.
Well, that's a temporary fix. I mean, create jobs. I mean, it's just like, get a job with the government. It's like, people moving papers from one side of the desk to the next and calling it a job.
Same thing in the financial industry. Most of the jobs are. Half the population is standing in front of a cash register watching other people ring out items. I mean, they're keeping track of that at a retail level in an age of easy pass.
Right.
There's all kinds of things that could displace them, but we have this work ethic and the idea that you're going to get your dignity by working and so forth.
Right.
And that's a major problem in terms of setting up a system that will distribute income to the masses of the people rather than only the owners of the means of production living very high, living very well. They're getting all their bonuses,
and
everything like that.
Everybody else is scrambling, and even if you work, you can't afford health insurance.
It's going worse now. It's getting worse, and they're doing it. So this movie is very prescient because that is taking place willy-nilly, and it's taking place against all the elements of the inherited institutions and the people who want to reify or re-establish the institutions that anchor us to history. There's a place for that. But they're all reifying it, and one of the major things in terms of all economic theory, whether it's Karl Marx or Schumpeter or Van Hayek or Friedman or whoever, is the labor theory of value. That human labor creates the wealth.
Right, but
and
that's,
there are figures that are in that way.
It's a concept that has outlived its time about a labor-based economy. It can't be anymore. I mean, if we don't progress out of that mentality, we're doomed.
Well, I would think we might well be, because it'll lead to social situations
I mean, it's
of
leading,
desperation that could lead to us unleashing the weapons that we have developed as a
but
way
we've
for one group gaining control over another.
We've
and those
already
are species
created
lethal now.
a tremendous amount of damage as a result of that type of thinking.
Yeah.
It has caused more destruction than anything that I can imagine. I mean, look what they've done to the resources in the continent of Africa. They've completely, raped the continent.
Yeah, making charcoal.
Right, it's terrible what they've done. But all over the world, I mean, it's really been horrible. Thinking that money is going to solve all the problem. I don't know if you know some old movies like the Anna Magnani, and she'd say, "But Gino, how many shoes I need?" You know, how much greed can one have? Yeah, how much can one? How many houses do you need to live in? You know what I mean? Was it Bernie Madoff who had 9 houses?
I don't know. They were all mansions, I think.
Right. I mean,
because there's
why?
unbelievably huge amounts of income concentrated and wealth in those circles where they have a return on the capital instruments that are increasingly responsible for production, and they can squeeze the people who are trying to get a job picking up leaves on the feudal estate of the people who own the estates and own all the assets. And they say, you don't have any ownership, there's no reason to distribute income or ownership to the people because they're just workers. And the workers buy into it, and the progressive community buys into it.
Right.
They accept the work ethic, Napoleon Hill, entrepreneur, all of this kind of thinking and so forth buys into it, so that the mass of the people of the world do not have a link to the way things are being, the trend, particularly in the way things are being produced, which involves increasingly technological or capital instruments, all owned by a tiny plutocratic class. The ownership of wealth in the American economy now is greater than it was in 1789 France.
That's right.
That led to Marie Antoinette's head getting cut off,
well,
among other things, in a revolution, right?
So what kind of revolution do you think that we need to have in order
Well, I think we're revolution along the lines that the gentleman suggested.
Right. I think that we have to look into having our leaders be technologically aware, not just people passing laws. You know, I'm one of these people who believe that the longer we have a government, the more restrictive laws they place on society. So all they're doing is passing laws restricting the masses, and that's all they're doing. And they're shifting money from one segment of the population to the other, and you know, inevitably it goes from the poor to the rich.
Right. It does.
I have nothing against rich people, although when I was younger, I had deep-seated resentment toward rich people. But now I realize, that they're not the ones who caused the problem. They are the ones who decided to go with that particular philosophy or that system. And I don't even know if it's a philosophy. I think it's some kind of paradigm that was maybe foisted upon them in some way, or they were taught that that's the way it had to be, that you had to exploit other people in order to get what you need, or maybe to some people whatever they have is just not enough.
Well, one of the things certain, and when you talk about James Joyce saying history is a nightmare, and this gentleman is in league with another seer that's of interest to me, I know, and that is Bucky Fuller. Bucky Fuller did that, and among other things, they measured, like you can measure things like the productive capability total of the human society with all of the technology and things that exist. And what has happened throughout all of human history, it goes back now with that thing, Ardipithecus now goes back 400, 500, 600,000 years earlier than we thought with Lucy and so forth. But for 200,000 years we've been here, and for most all of that period, according to the movements or the thought of the design science decade that Mr. Fuller did, reading the technological population trends, technological capability, projections anticipatorily and so forth, saying that you can get a chart that says how many of the population of the world, given the trends, could be considered to be have. You'd have to have a definition of what you mean by have. And then how much would be have-nots. And it's overwhelmingly been more have-nots than haves.
That's right.
It's been a few. And so you had a condition of scarcity was the reality in which all human institutions evolved. So in order for some to live well, the others had to wallow around in the mud.
That's right.
Okay, so that's the way it's been. Mr. Fuller said we projected, and we're moving now because of the technology, and things are moving exponentially. If you're in cyber world, you can see that coming exponentially now and everything like that. And that we have now, and he projected from 1952 that we had a 20-year period of imminent crisis to all human institutions as we approached and crossed the 50% mark.
Right.
In terms of the percentage of the world population that could realistically be seen to be halves, in terms of our abstract, technologically augmented capability to provide life support to the people and the ecology of the world. And he said we have an imminent crisis because that would obviate virtually all of the institutions that had come out of history. We were transcending material scarcity at the level not of the reality. The reality is just being, you know, projecting the inadequacies of the present plus the past.
Changed.
But that we had that, and that was a qualitative, and the Vietnam thing was largely evolved around that kind of the thing we were celebrating with you in the doo-up. Yeah, Willie, it's time to close? Okay, we're going to have to close out now because we've run over our time. So we're going to run the credits. I didn't mean to carry on, but we're going to have to quit now.
That's okay.
And we did want to give one more. Let's let Willie run those credits, then we'll maybe run some more of that tape at the end of the program for this. But we've run out of time for this segment. A little bit short.
His name is Jacques Fresco.
Right. Jacques Fresco, and he's presenting this thing that we have perhaps transcended scarcity as an ontologic reality. And that's such a qualitative transformation, it's hard for people ensconced, the more favorably ensconced in the system that they benefit from, it's harder for them to see it. But we need a qualitative change, and it seems to me this tape that you brought in and the movement they've started, it's called the Zeitgeist, is well worth for people repairing to. So they're just running those credits now. I'm sorry we're running a little bit short on the hour time frame, but we're going to close this out. We're talking with Barbara Rosenfeld, bringing in the film, the Zeitgeist Addendum.
Well, this is called the Venus Project.
The Venus Project, but it's those people.
Right.
And we'll do that now, and then we'll put that on at the end. So thanks a lot for coming in, bringing the tape, and we're going to strike the set now, and then we're going to run some more of that tape at the end of the hour. So thanks a lot for coming in, Barbara.
I thank you very much.
Thank you for viewing. Stay tuned. We're going to be running a little bit more of that program, the Venus Project and the perception of things from the. It's called the Zeitgeist also, isn't it?
The Zeitgeist movement is the activist arm of the Venus Project.
Right. Okay, that's it. And we're going to be one more time. We'll mention that this film in its entirety is going to be shown at the meeting of the ACAP Association of Cable Access Producers, on October 26th, and we're going to get interested in the movement and the things that in a sister way relate to the philosophy that is advanced by that movement. Thanks a lot for bringing it in, Barbara.
Okay, well,
okay,
you're
stay
welcome.
tuned. There will be more coming up
Stay
momentarily, more from that film. Thanks again, Barbara. Thanks a lot.
And human behavior appears to be environmentally determined, meaning if you were raised by the Seminole Indians as a baby, never saw anything else, you'd hold that value system. And this goes for nations, it goes for individuals, for families. They try to indoctrinate their children to their particular faith and their country and make them feel like they're part of that. And they build a society which they call established. They establish a workable point of view and tend to perpetuate that, whereas all societies are really emergent, not established. And so they fight new ideas that would interfere with the establishment. Governments try to perpetuate that which keeps them in power. People are not elected to political office to change things. They're put there to keep things the way they are. So you see, the basis of corruption is in our society. Let me make it clear. All nations, then, are basically corrupt because they tend to uphold existing institutions. I don't mean to uphold or downgrade all nations, but communism, socialism, fascism, the free enterprise system, and all other subcultures are the same. They are all basically corrupt.
At the heart of this institutional self-preservation lies the monetary system, for it is money that provides the means for power and survival. Therefore, just as a poor person might be forced to steal in order to survive, it is a natural inclination to do whatever is needed to continue an institution's profitability. This makes it inherently difficult for profit-based institutions to change, for it puts in jeopardy not only the survival of large groups of people, but also the coveted materialistic lifestyles associated with affluence and power. Therefore, the paralyzing necessity to preserve an institution, regardless of its social relevance, is largely rooted in the need for money or profit.
What's in it for me is why people think. And so if a man makes money selling a certain product, naturally he's going to fight the existence of another product that may threaten his institution. Therefore, people cannot be fair, and people do not trust each other. A guy will come over to you and say, I got just the house you're looking for. He's a salesman. When a doctor says, I think your kidney has to come out, I don't know if he's trying to pay off a yacht or that my kidney has to come out. It's hard in a monetary system to trust people. If you came into my store and I said, this lamp that I've got is pretty good, but the lamp next door is much better, I wouldn't be in business very long. It wouldn't work. If I were ethical, it wouldn't work. So when you say industry cares for people, that's not true. They can't afford to be ethical. So your system is not designed to serve the well-being of people. If you still don't understand that, there would be no outsourcing of jobs if they cared about people. Industry does not care. They only hire people because it hasn't been automated yet. So don't talk about decency and ethics. We cannot afford it and remain in business. So you see, you have built-in corruption. We're all chiseling off each other, and you can't expect decency and that sort of thing. And feeling that, they don't know who to elect. They think in terms of a democracy, which is not possible in a monetary-based economy. If you have more money to advertise your position, the position you desire in government, that isn't a democracy. It serves those in positions of differential advantage. So it's always a dictatorship of the elitists, the financially wealthy. It's not politicians that can solve problems. They have no technical capabilities. They don't know how to solve problems. Even if they were sincere, they don't know how to solve problems. It's the technicians that produce the desalination plants. It's the technicians that give you electricity, that give you motor vehicles, that heat your house and cool it in the summertime. It's technology that solves problems, not politics. Politics cannot solve problems because they're not trained to do so. And writing your congressman is fantastic. They tell you to write your congressman if you want something done. The men in Washington should be at the forefront of technology, the forefront of human studies, the forefront of crime, all the factors that shape human behavior. You don't have to write your congressman.